Welcome to the Heroic Gara'jal video encounter guide. In this video guide, we'll be covering both heroic and normal mode difficulties. As always, I am World Boss.
And I'm Meows.
Now, the first thing we're going to go over real quick before we get into the kill video is the changes from normal mode to heroic mode. And we'll talk about them a little bit more in the video. The first and most important thing is the Voodoo Doll. In normal mode, the Voodoo Doll takes 75% of the damage that the tank takes. In heroic mode, it goes up to 100%. So it makes those Voodoo Dolls, especially the shadowy attacks, very, very deadly. The second thing is players now get the Frail Soul debuff. When they return to the normal world from the spirit realm, they gain this debuff. And it lasts for 30 seconds, and if you attempt to go down to the spirit realm while you have that, you will just die. The final difference is the tanks who get banished. There are now 3 Severer Souls ads that spawn. 2 of these are visible to all players. So with those major differences covered, let's get into the kill video. Keep in mind that both normal and heroic difficulties, the Voodoo Dolls will not allow you to zone down into the spirit realm unless at all. So if you are assigned to go down, make sure you have a backup. You know who your backup is and you let them know. The first totem is very important. You don't want it up for very long. Your groups need to be getting to the totems as soon as they spawn. Otherwise, you run the very real risk of falling behind on the ads. For the spirit realm, you gain a buff called Spiritual Innervation. For a DPS, it can stack up to 22. Now, it gives you a full point in mastery, not rating, per stack of the buff. It gives you a full percent of haste, a full percent of crit, and a full percent of extra damage done. So, one of the most important things to remember in that spirit realm is that you are getting some type of heal off as your last global cooldown prior to leaving. That will refresh your buff for another 30 seconds, so it'll only be wearing off just before you're getting ready to go down in the spirit realm. What we did...
Healing for Gara'jal is actually probably the most complicated in this tier that I've been witness to thus far. You do have to have healers who are very comfortable communicating on Mumble, because there's going to be a lot of, well, I was supposed to go down with this group, but I'm voodooed, so I need someone to back me up. And with the heroic changes to having a debuff after you come out of the spirit realm, that's not going to leave a whole lot of options of healers who can go down in your place if someone is voodooed. The other part of that is mana. If someone is very low on mana and needs to go and they need to step up for into the rotation, that's fine, as long as it's communicated and someone can go in their place. The other major thing about totem healing is, again, Spiritual Innervation. It's very different for a healer in that it's a static mana per 5 in combat that you gain for healing done. Now, the way the buff works, it's pretty straightforward. It's actually counted as overhealing. So the more overhealing done in the smaller amount of time is the best way to get your stacks up. So when you go down as a healer, you want to get yourself safe to where a couple Shadow Bolts aren't going to kill you. But your main focus is topping off your DPS as fast as possible, which in most cases is going to be your fastest, heaviest heals. You want to utilize those spells as much as possible. For Priest, Binding Heal is also absolutely amazing. Again, it's the overhealing, so once someone is topped, you don't stop there. You want to toss a couple extra heals, then get yourself spammed up and get out as soon as possible so you can get back to the regular realm and catch up on healing there, because it's a lot of damage going out, especially if your rate is falling behind on ads. The other major part about this is the voodoo healing. While rate damage in general is very high because of the amount of Shadow Bolts going out from the ads, Voodoo Dolls have to have single target heals or they will just fall over and die, which you cannot have because of the Enrage. What we did, we rotated externals and damage reduction cooldowns as much as possible for the tanks. Tanks were actually calling for them as they pleased. You basically want to mitigate as much damage as possible from the tanks to the voodoos, especially where the shadowy attacks come in, because that's where the major burst damage is going to come from on voodoos. Healing cooldowns such as Trank and Healing Tide Totem, you want to use those where your raid is getting dangerously low and you feel like you're not going to be able to catch up. However, things like that are also pretty good for the earlier totems in the spirit realm, just to kind of get a head start on your stack. Second phase, tank damage, voodoo damage is going to spike as well. Again, you have to focus those heals on your tanks, on the voodoos, because they will, again, just fall over from the damage. It's a lot of damage to go out. Anyone who is voodooed should be using their personal cooldowns like Bark Skin or Divine Protection as much as possible. Health stones if they feel they're getting low. And that's pretty much it as far as healing goes. Just be vocal, spam in the spirit realm, and use that buff to the maximum. It's going to still be up when you come up to the spirit realm, so don't be afraid of spamming to get caught up on the raid until that buff clears out.
Alright guys, well that sounds like that about wraps it up. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We will get them answered as soon as possible. Subscribe up above, as well as links to our other both Heart of Fear and mogu'shan Vault video guides. And as always, if this helped you out at all, please like us, please subscribe us, and good luck in mogu'shan Vaults.